It had been months of quiet observation, planning, and patience. I had suspected my wife's infidelity long before I had any proof, but suspicion alone isn't enough. It's dangerous. I needed certainty. I needed leverage. I needed a way to reclaim the dignity she had trampled over and the life she had begun to dismantle without a second thought. Her company's annual celebration party seemed like the perfect stage. A glittering room filled with colleagues, supervisors, and clients, all laughing, dancing, and enjoying the illusion of perfection. My wife walked in radiant, confident, completely unaware that tonight wouldn't be just another night of shallow applause and small talk. I had been there in secret, mingling at the edges, watching. Her dress clung just enough to highlight her elegance. Her laughter rang out, careless and intoxicating. But every smile she gave, every flirtatious glance she tossed at someone across the room, only fueled my resolve. She thought she was untouchable. She thought I hadn't noticed the late nights, the hidden phone calls, the sudden business trips. As the night unfolded, I waited. I watched her purse sit on the small cocktail table beside her, a black leather bag she always carried. And then finally, the moment arrived. I approached quietly, an envelope in hand. Not a letter, not a note. Something far more symbolic, far more undeniable. Inside the envelope rested a simple, familiar object. My wedding ring. The one she had mocked, hidden, and belittled over countless arguments and moments of disdain. The one she had left on the kitchen counter the day she needed space. The same ring she had tucked away in the back of her purse to avoid facing reality. I stepped closer, casually, blending with the crowd. She laughed at something a coworker said, her attention fully absorbed in the party. I didn't interrupt immediately. No dramatic entrance, no yelling, no chaos. Patience was my ally. Then, I gently set the envelope on the table beside her purse. Just a quiet placement, barely noticeable to anyone but her. Moments later, curiosity, or perhaps subconscious guilt, drove her hand into the bag. She pulled out the envelope, thinking it might be a note from a colleague, a small card from HR, or some company announcement. But the second she saw the contents, her laughter froze midair. Her eyes widened, the color draining from her face as recognition struck. The ring. My ring. She looked around the room, suddenly aware of the silent witnesses, the colleagues chatting nearby, the supervisors keeping an eye on the event, the friends who had been quietly observing. The envelope wasn't just a message, it was a revelation. Her hands trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I had waited for this exact reaction. No shouting, no tears. Just silence, and the undeniable weight of truth. She had hidden her betrayal, disguised her contempt, and thought she could continue without consequence. But in that moment, the universe, or perhaps my own meticulous preparation, had intervened. I watched as realization dawned fully in her eyes. She had been living in a lie, one that she thought only she controlled. And yet, here was proof of the life we had shared, the commitment she had abandoned, staring her back in the face. Around her, whispers started. Not from me, not from anyone prompting them, just the natural curiosity of a room filled with people sensing tension. The envelope was small, unassuming, but it carried weight heavier than any speech, heavier than any confrontation. She tried to smile, to laugh it off, to make it seem like nothing, but it was too late. The ring spoke for itself. My love, my anger, my resolve, all condensed into this small golden circle that symbolized both devotion and betrayal. I left the party shortly afterward. No dramatic confrontation, no scene, just a quiet exit, leaving her to grapple with her actions, her conscience, and the public exposure of her choices. The best revenge isn't chaos, I reminded myself. It's precision, patience, and timing. In the days that followed, the story spread through subtle channels. Friends who had noticed her secretive behavior reached out, curious and concerned. Colleagues who had seen her reaction at the party began to piece together the truth. And I, meanwhile, moved forward, focused on my career, my friends, my dignity, reclaiming everything she had tried to undermine. She tried to reach out, of course. Phone calls, messages, even attempts at casual conversation when our paths crossed. But the envelope, the ring, and that silent moment at the party had changed everything. I no longer needed to argue or plead. Her guilt, her exposure, and the quiet shame she carried became her own undoing. Months later, I reflected on that night. It wasn't about humiliating her in front of a crowd. It wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It was about reclaiming what was mine, my peace, my dignity, and the understanding that betrayal cannot thrive in the light of truth. The ring remained a symbol, not of what had been lost, but of what I had survived, of the patience and preparation it took to turn her betrayal into a quiet, powerful lesson. She had thought she could continue her lies unnoticed. She had thought I was blind to her deceit. But she learned, in that small, elegant moment at her own company party, that truth has a way of speaking louder than any excuses or lies. And I walked away knowing one thing: the best revenge isn't loud, isn't messy, and isn't born of anger. It's quiet. It's deliberate. It's the satisfaction of knowing you've risen above deceit, while the betrayer is left to confront their choices alone. Because sometimes all it takes is a small gesture, a ring, an envelope, and perfect timing to change everything. That night, my wife found the ring, and in that single moment, I had won.